What is going on, IB Nation? Welcome to another edition of IB Nation Sports Talk. I'm Vince D'Addario. That guy over there is Jesse Stiers, not Sean Stiers, because for the second week in a row, Sean Stiers is en route to a women's basketball game. And I believe, are they heading for Kentucky? Is that where they're going?
Louisville.
Okay. All right. I had the state right, at least. All right. So they're heading to Louisville. And the game, of course, will be tomorrow night, which means Sean Stiers will also not be on the show tomorrow night. And I'm not going to give you any details, but we've got something special coming tomorrow night. That's all I'm going to say. Something special. So make sure you tune in tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So it should be a lot of fun, though. Should be a lot of fun. We're getting some live questions in here. Okay, here we go. Here we go. By the way, some of the questions that came in, and I know you guys are just being you, but there's only so many that we can obviously answer, and I'll just say it, and I'll take the ridicule. I'll take the ridicule when it comes. I've never seen Red Dawn, and I know that T Guns is going to be unhappy with me, and Jesse hasn't either. So.
Whoa! You have to out me while you were outing yourself.
Hey, sorry. I can't be under the bus all by myself. So, yeah. That's just the way it is. Okay, I'm going to star that one. Trying to pull double duty. See, I knew it. He's already mad at me. Vince with a bunch of exclamation points. Sorry, man. My bad. I will answer. You know what? Here we go. Let's throw that one up. Go ahead, Jesse.
The first mailbag question of today, clearly a hot topic. Who cooks the best amongst the IB Nation team? I will immediately remove myself. I'm out. There's no way it is me.
You're not a cook, huh?
No.
Okay, that's fair. You know, I can cook, but I'm definitely like a recipe-based guy. Like, I don't know that I could go like off on my own and a pinch of this and a pinch of that and all that. Like, that's not me. I know. I don't. You would know this better than I would. What kind of cook is your dad?
Not so great.
Not so great. Okay, fair enough. So, but you made it. I mean, you survived. I'm guessing because of your mom that helped. But yeah, I am probably going to give this to Brian because I have witnessed him making a meal from scratch. You know, just doing this, doing that, and just, I mean, I know he's an avid bread maker and he does all these other different things. So I'm going to go with Brian on this one. And I'm not just kissing the boss's booty here. I think that he like one of his passions is working in the kitchen. So I'm going to give it to him.
I wish I was better. I'm like you. I can follow a good recipe,
right?
No problem. But if I'm just asked to make something from scratch, there's little chance that it'll turn out even edible.
Yeah, fair. I mean, Ryan's saying it's himself.
Okay.
So I didn't realize Ryan was a whole. Yeah, that'd be great. That's the other problem though. Like, we're all in so many different places. Like, I guess me and Brian and Sean are the ones in this area, right? But you know, you're in Ohio and Squirrel is in, you know, way off on the East Coast, and the other Sean is in Chicago. It's like we don't really all get together and cook. So it's, you know, he says he cooks every meal in his household. Wow. I'm impressed, man. I am.
That is a lot of responsibility.
I am dutifully impressed. Maybe it is Ryan. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm going to need some examples, Ryan, at some point. I'm going to need, because I've seen the fruits of the labor from Brian. I've never seen or heard, you know, the fruits of your labor, Ryan. So I'm going to have to see some proof. Not that I don't believe you, but you know, that's kind of where I'm at. All right, let's jump into some of these questions, folks. And there are some good ones. I will say Salty was bringing the heat today. We start off with a baseball question.
Oh. Salty wants to know the Oakland A's Las Vegas relationship is hitting snags. Should the A's remain in Oakland or move to Salt Lake City. I will say first and foremost that they should definitely not remain in Oakland. At this point, I don't think that's a possibility. I think the Vegas thing is going to happen regardless. And I guess if I were to think of alternate cities, Salt Lake City would make sense.
I know Salt Lake, they want them because they were like, they put all the billboards and
all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast.
yeah,
I still think the Vegas thing is going to work out.
right. Yeah, I do too. I mean, I know that it's hitting some snags, and I think the what was it was it the mayor of Las Vegas that came out and said some stuff recently about they're supposed to go on the ground of the Tropicana, and I think she said it doesn't think it's going to work, and and the A's should just stay in Oakland, and I don't know all the details behind it, but Vegas is going to get a baseball team. Okay. I mean, let's all be real clear. If Vegas has a hockey team and Vegas has an NFL team, they're going to get a Major League Baseball team.
Right.
And the A's would be stupid to not move to Vegas. Maybe it's not the smoothest of transitions, but they're going to get a brand new stadium, obviously. They're going to be welcomed with open arms. I don't see the overall downside of the A's going to Vegas. And they've been treated, I mean, it's just been rough in Oakland. Now, I don't know that, moving to Vegas is going to make them spend more money on their roster and, all of the things that the A's need to do. But I just don't see the downside of moving to Vegas, Jess. I just don't.
Yeah, and it sounded like the mayor made some comments and then sort of walked him back afterwards. But, I don't know that the Strip, because I think it has to do with, like, location within Vegas. And I think that rather than it just being kind of completely abandoned, that they might, relocate and find a better spot in Vegas. I just, like you said, the Raiders are already there. The hockey team is already there. It's proven to work. And so for an organization that needs a revival, I think Vegas is what is going to work.
Yeah, I don't see the downside. I really don't. A brand spanking new stadium, all of it. You know what I mean? I just, Vegas is excited about having professional sports, man. And the way things have changed over the last decade with gambling and, all of the apps and everything, Vegas is just prime for that spot. And whoever moves to Vegas, if it's not going to be the A's, whoever it's going to be is going to benefit. They're going to benefit.
Ooh, next question, mailbag. Just for fun, one player from both sides of the ball that's important to the success of the 2024 season, excluding Riley Leonard. Do you want to do offense first or defense
Sure.
first?
Yeah, let's go offense first.
Excluding.
I mean, the obvious answer is Riley Leonard. And so, you got to take him off the table. And so
I'm thinking wide receiver.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be, I think my answer would be Chris Mitchell or Jordan Faison. I think there's got to be someone that's going to be kind of your downfield home run hitter, because I think that they'll have, a good line, and we know they have a good running back room. And Riley Leonard will be able to facilitate, running plays with just himself being an option to run is going to help the run game. And so I think they have to figure out a way to push the ball downfield and hit some of those home run balls at times. And so when I think of someone who can take the top off of defense, I think of Mitchell or Faison, just because of how speedy they are, shifty, just getting downfield, kind of like Golden Tate type when, the Notre Dame offense was good during Golden Tate's time.
It's so hard in football for it to come down to, one guy on either side of the ball, right? I mean, it's one thing I love about football is that it's the ultimate team sport. And so, picking one guy is very difficult. I'll go a different direction, though, and I'll say Charles Jagasaw. And I believe somebody already put that, Sloppy Joe, I believe, put that in the chat already. And I agree. I think that, what happens at the tackle position is going to be uber important for Notre Dame, because you're going to have two new tackles with Fisher and Alt going off to the NFL. So you're going to have two brand new tackles. What is that going to look like? And how is that going to go down? And I think Charles Jagasaw has an opportunity to be the man at tackle at Notre Dame. And if he is as good as we think he's going to be, then I think that this team could be really, really good because we know Marcus Freeman still wants to be a run-first team. He still wants to be, it all starts at the lines and all the different things that he said. I think he's right. And I'm excited to see what he brings to the table, not only in the spring, but then obviously in the fall as well. So I will go with Charles Jagasaw as my offensive player that is most important to the success of the 24 season. So defense, where are you at?
Defense, I think, is the best way to look at defense is kind of like where do you see the critical holes being? I think the middle is pretty solid with Mills and Cross. I think Burnham will be and RJ Oben at defensive end. So I start thinking about, the Viper position. I start thinking about, the middle linebacker position.
Sure.
And then the cornerback position adjacent to, or I guess opposite to Benjamin Morrison.
Yep.
And then I guess the last one too would be, there's another safety spot that opened up. And so, who is that going to be? Honestly, I think it's going to be who's going to step up in the absence of Cam Hart. So I think for them, in order for them to repeat as like a lockdown type secondary, they need someone to, fill the shoes of Cam Hart. And, is that going to be Jaden Mickey? Will that be Christian Gray? Right now it looks like it might be Jaden Mickey and Gray would be Morrison's backup, but I guess you never know. So yeah, that's kind of where I lean defensively.
I completely agree with you with Christian Gray. I think he's going to get picked up, or whoever that other corner is. I personally would like to see Christian Gray in that spot. I would like to see Mickey at the nickel. But I know they brought in that transfer to play nickel most likely. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But just for the sake of answering the question and just being different, I will go with Drake Bowen at middle linebacker. I think, we're seeing how, I think we've all known how important JD Bertrand has been to this team over the last few years. And now the rest of the world is kind of seeing it at the Senior Bowl, et cetera. And I think Notre Dame fans are going to miss JD Bertrand in the middle of this defense. And those are some big shoes to fill for Drake Bowen. And you add into the fact that Drake is playing baseball. And I don't hold that against him. But if you're trying to be the starter at middle linebacker playing baseball at the same time, that's going to be tough. That is going to be tough in the spring. And so I think he's going to be crucially important in this defense, being in the middle, calling the plays, doing all that a middle linebacker in Al Golden's defense is asked to do. That's a lot, man. And if he can do it at even a fraction of what JD Bertrand did, but then adding the athleticism and everything else, then I think this defense can absolutely take off. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on the other cornerback position, because I think that spot is going to get picked on early and often with Benjamin Morrison being on the other side as a third-year starter and all of that. But I also think Drake Bowen is going to be very, 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 very important if he ends up being the middle linebacker of this defense.
Yeah, I really like that Drake Bowen answer as well, because the middle linebacker is in charge of getting the entire defense to be functioning properly, and so that's half the battle of getting everyone else set and then playing the position well yourself at the that's the other half of it.
Absolutely. All right, we got a Super Bowl question from Salty.
Salty wants to know, in Super Bowl 53, the 49ers are favored, but it is Brock Purdy's first time in the Super Bowl pressure cooker. He is already getting snappy to the press. Who will win and why?
Save your prediction for Friday.
Yeah,
save your prediction.
I was just getting ready to say, I think tomorrow would be a good day to ask who's going to win. But I understand the part of the question of this is the most pressure that Brock Purdy has faced. And last year, the NFC, he didn't even make the NFC Championship because of the injury, and he definitely didn't make a Super Bowl. And now this is Patrick Mahomes, fifth Super Bowl, fourth Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Something like that. And so the pressure isn't quite there for Mahomes, obviously. He's just going out there and doing something he's already done 4 other times. So in terms of who the most pressure is on that offense, I would say Brock Purdy, because he has to facilitate the ball to everyone else. Samuel, Ayuk, McCaffrey, Kittle. It's on him to distribute the ball out and get into the right play. I just think it's going to be a little bit harder for him given the stage.
Fair enough. I like it. I look, people in the media are. I saw it on Twitter, and I think he was asked about it. Like, the people are comparing what he looks like to Lee Harvey Oswald. Like,
I saw that.
Wouldn't you be getting a little snappy if that was the case? Like, you're going to compare me to the guy who killed the president? Like, I guess I can't blame him. He's a young kid, and you're coming at him with these ridiculous questions, and we know how media day is and how ridiculous it is, and I get that, but like, let's give the kid a little bit of a break with how he's answering questions. And how you answer questions at media day has zero to do with how you're going to play in the Super Bowl. So I know the 49ers are favored, and we're going to obviously talk about that moving forward. I'm a little surprised that the 49ers are favored. Yes, they have, I think, more guys, and they, their offense is better than Kansas City's offense. I think we can all agree on that. I think Kansas City's defense is really good, and I think the 49ers defense is pretty good. So I guess I'm a little surprised the 49ers are favored considering the experience that Kansas City has in the Super Bowl. So that's the part that gets me a little bit. But I tell you what, I like the Chiefs in the points. How about that? I mean, that's they're just asking you to bet Chiefs in the points. But we'll see. And we'll give our predictions on Friday, for the Friday show and all of that fun stuff. So, but yeah, good question, Salty. Good question. Let's see here. All right, this is a good one from Joe.
Joe wants to know if one of the 4 quarterbacks jumps into the portal after spring practices, do they go to the portal for another or let Anthony Rizak try to make it? Oh, okay. I see the question. Would Notre Dame then respond by going to the portal themselves, or would they just stick it out with Anthony Rizak to be the 4th guy overall? Vince, what do you think?
Well, Anthony Rizak obviously, just signed today as a walk-on. And I am not 100% convinced that he's going to stay at quarterback, to be perfectly honest with you. I think, and I have no inside information on this either direction, but I mean, he's coming in as an athlete, basically. And so it wouldn't surprise me in any way that, if they said, hey, we want you at receiver, we want you here, we want you there. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a walk-on, right? I mean, he is a walk-on. Did he have offers to play elsewhere? Yeah, he sure did. And I just don't see him as a quarterback at Notre Dame. That's me. Could they do that just to have a camp arm if somebody, decides to go someplace else? Sure, they could do that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, what's the kid's name? Who was the walk-on quarterback who was on the team last year? Dylan DeViesen. He's still listed as a quarterback, by the way, and I know he was playing, I believe, receiver or tight end or something at during bowl practices or whatever. But he's still listed as a quarterback as well, and he has more, experience at Notre Dame as a quarterback than Rizak as well. So I think that would even be the safer, choice if I was Notre Dame and I wanted to, have somebody for a depth purposes for a camp arm, if you will, that type of thing. I don't think Notre Dame is putting their eggs in the Anthony Rizak at quarterback basket. That's just how I feel. I mean, we'll see what happens, obviously, because I would not be surprised if there was a defection at some point at the quarterback position after spring. Like, that wouldn't overly surprise me. You know what I mean? So, because we're talking Angeli, Leonard, Carr, Minchie. There's 4. That's the ideal number. Somebody's going to be 4th. Somebody's going to be 3rd. And when you're 4th or 3rd, if you don't have a bunch of, I could see them leaving. I could.
Yeah, especially in today's, college football landscape, there's there's really not a lot of reason / optimism to be sitting third or fourth, somewhere buried on a depth chart at a school like Notre
Right.
Dame, because you can essentially go somewhere else smaller and maybe get an opportunity. And I like what you said about Rizak. I don't think he's definitely committed to just the quarterback, position. I think he's just an athlete all around, and wherever he's sort of needed, especially early on, maybe he'll be a scout team quarterback, or I just think that that's going to be his role to start, is just being that athlete type of guy and figuring out what his best role will be eventually on the team.
Yep. Completely agree with you. All right. I know you're traveling tonight. And so that's why I'm bringing up this question from Salty, because normally I just kind of roll my eyes and move past it. But I am going to we're going to do this question for you, buddy.
Mailbag: Southwest Airlines is going to have thinner seats on its new planes. How important is travel comfort to you? And what are deal breakers for short and long flights? I'll go ahead and take the lead on this one.
Yes.
I'm not flying tonight, but I am going to be driving to Toronto at some point. Looked at flights, wasn't really worth it. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just make the drive. Why not?
How far is it? You're used to the long drives to Kansas. How far is the drive?
4.5 hours. So it's not
that's
long.
That's not too bad.
No. But to answer the question, travel comfort is very important to me. Thinner seats is kind of crazy when you think about it. I have broader shoulders, and so I always feel uncomfortable. I can't sit in a middle seat, that's for sure, because I'll be taking up, two people's space rather than one. And so most of the time when I'm traveling, I prefer to have the aisle seat. And most of the time, I feel like I'm trying to sit like this because, again, I don't want to be in someone else's space. But most of the time, my girlfriend Naomi is next to me, and I don't really care about if I'm taking up her space. So usually it's me on the aisle seat, and then she's in the middle, and then some random person is alongside the window. But travel comfort is definitely important to me, and it doesn't even matter if it's short or a long flight. I want to be comfortable no matter what.
So are there deal breakers for short and long flights for you? Like I don't know if he's talking about food or movies, or I don't know. What I don't travel enough to really have an opinion, I guess.
Deal breakers, not really. Like, honestly, it's just where I'm sitting at. Like I would not want to fly in a middle seat. I can do a window, but if for some reason I got stuck in a middle seat, I would do everything in my power to have that switched, because I'm just going to be comfortable. Everyone else is going to be uncomfortable, and it's just not going to be a good time.
This is why you gotta fly Southwest, so it's open seating. It's first come, first serve.
Yeah,
it's
like the lottery.
Yeah, exactly. And when my son and I went down to Florida, a few weeks ago, they had the open seating, and so we get on, and we had no problem finding two seats together or whatever, and we generally had to kind of go towards the back, and so he wanted to sit next to the window because we don't travel very often. And so, like, I think he's been on a plane 3 times total, like 3 trips. And so he's like, I want to sit by the windows. All right, cool. So that means, of course, I'm in the middle seat, right? And so then you do the whole thing where you try not to make eye contact with people that are coming down the aisle. We're going to sit in the seat next to you. And, all these, like, it, I don't know, man. I just, you never know who's going to sit down next to you, man. And that's the
yeah, that's
that's always and I can't say it's a deal breaker because you can't decide who sits next to you or whatever. But, like, I guess the deal breaker for me is the talker, the guy who sits next to you and just wants to talk the entire time. That's a deal breaker for me, man. Like, I will be cordial. I'll have a conversation with you. I'll introduce myself if the situation calls for it. I do not want to talk to you the entire time. And I will put on the big, bulky headphones to kind of send the message. I'm here to watch.
We're shutting it down. Isn't there nothing worse, though, than someone that still tries to talk to you when you put in the headphones?
Yeah. Clearly watching something or doing something. You gotta be like, what?
And they clearly see you hitting pause, taking out the headphone. Like, come on, get the hint here.
It's that is a pet peeve of mine as well. So yeah, that's rough. And Joe says the crying baby is a deal breaker. Joe, I think you've got kids. Like, there's nothing you can do about that, man. Like, I always try to feel for the parents on that one. Like, what are you supposed to do? You know, like you can
I
try
mean,
to
they
shove
don't. No one
food.
wants that baby
No,
crying.
especially the parents, by the way. Like the parents are usually mortified by the fact that their kid is acting up. You know what I mean? And that's tough. That's tough, man.
I experienced that on a long flight to California. I never really
Ooh.
had like a crying baby or a kid acting up, but I had it, and it was on one of my longer flights one time. I was just I
Ooh.
didn't I had a new appreciation
Yeah.
for not having to deal with that.
I would say the crying baby doesn't bother me as much as like the annoying child, who
Yeah,
just like
because that's
keeps
more
kicking,
controllable.
yeah, kicking the back of your seat or, doing all the annoying things that kids do because that is the parent's fault. Like parents can't necessarily stop their kid from crying, but you can definitely stop your kid from acting like an a-hole. Like
Yeah.
that's a deal breaker for me as well. T Guns is coming right after you, Jesse. He wants to specifically, so I'll ask it. T Guns says, Jesse, if you paid for a specific seat and it turned out to be really inconvenient for a group of passengers, would you swap seats if asked?
If I'm swapping to a middle seat, no. There's no circumstance.
None, huh?
No. If it's a window, and we really needed it, like it really benefited this other group, I guess I would do it.
It's like
I
let's
would.
say a parent and a child are separated because they're one of the last groups on, and there's only like 2 single seats, and the parent wants to sit with their, like, let's call it 12-year-old child.
Nope.
Yeah, moving, huh?
Not moving.
Wow. Wow. I love it. Good for you. You can tell you don't have kids. That's a good question, though, Guns. I probably would move. I'll be honest with you. Unless it was separating me from my family, I don't know that I would. You know what I mean? Like, independent on how old my kids are. So there's a lot of different,
DK said it
scenarios.
right there, baby. I would tell them be better, better prepared.
Well,
Proper
I mean, you're right. If it's reserved
preparation.
seats, USMA 87 says if it's reserved seats, it's their fault. That I agree with. But if it's like Southwest where you're just getting on, and let's say you're one of the last boarding parties to get on or whatever, that would be tough. But yeah, that would be hard. Good question. I like those types of questions. All right. Back to a little indie football.
With the switch, Bayless to Landau is a switch from old school to new school strength and conditioning. How important is real-time data, analytics, and personalization in strength and conditioning? I guess I'll kind of start this
Hit
one,
it, baby.
Vince. I think the real-time data and analytics is important because I think it allows you to get a better understanding of what your group of guys is doing and what they might be good at and what they might be deficient at. And I don't think every team is going to be the same. I think that you have program specific type areas on things that you might want to work on in terms of strength and conditioning, just because, you're not going to get the same type of recruit that some of these other schools might get, or you might not have a majority of, a certain type of recruit. And so again, I think the real-time data analytics allows you to analyze practice by practice, going through different workouts and see, what you might be overall deficient at as a group. And that might not be by design. It's just kind of how things, end up turning out. And so if you can have that live time data, I just think it allows you to just adjust kind of, especially in the season, meeting certain needs for certain guys. So that's the importance of the real-time data and analytics to me.
I think it's super important, especially this day and age. I mean, you can't get passed up by other programs that are actually using it. You have to be able to use everything at your disposal to make your team better. And I think that is key in this new world of real-time data analytics, personalization, all of that. I think it's crucial. And I think that they're going in the right direction. It's what Marcus Freeman wants to do. It's what Lando is doing. And I think it's a nice marriage. And I think that they both understand, where each other is coming from. And I think they're in lockstep. And I think it's crucial. I think it's absolutely crucial. And it's for me, strength and conditioning and, moving into the future and all that, it definitely falls under the category of if you're not adapting, you're getting passed up.
Right.
And I think you have to use every advantage, the nutrition piece, the real-time data, like all of it is key to, hey, my guys are going to be in better shape in the fourth quarter, and that's the most important time. So I think it's crucial. USMA 87 has a scenario for Jesse, and I'll answer it too, but we are coming back to the plane scenario. So here we go. It says, Jesse, would you take an upgrade to first class if it meant leaving the girlfriend in coach?
This is really a funny question because
is it?
I think that I would say yes, and I would take the switch and leave, but I would catch a lot of flack for it. But the thing is I know if roles were reversed, she would definitely take the invite as well. I think
right.
that, and
100%.
so, but the thing is I would get heavily criticized for it, and
yes,
if the roles were reversed,
you can't criticize her.
Yeah, she'd be like, "Oh, well, why wouldn't I?" And so I know I would take it solely because I know she would take it, and I wouldn't care about the flack that I would get afterwards.
All the married men in the chat, I feel like we all need to say it at the same time. You can tell you're not married, number one. And number two, if you get offered that spot in first class, you give it to the girlfriend or the wife. That way they get all the whatevers and you get peace and quiet. That's what we call a win-win scenario, my friend.
I like that solution better because that is a very good win-win. And I can hear all the stories about the first class later and how I was so great for allowing her to do that.
Yes, pebbles in the jar, buddy. Pebbles in the jar, because you're going to have to go back to those pebbles at some point. This is not the time. This is not the time. All right?
The easy win. That's like someone throwing up an alley-oop.
Right, exactly. Yes. All right. But that's a great question, USM 87. You set Jesse up for failure on that one. I just want to say it. I let the young buck go because I knew what he was going to say. All right, here we go. Another one from Salty. Oh no, we did that one. My fault.
I liked the one the Anthony Solomon question about 4 different options.
Yeah. There we go.
Kind of like a mind teaser. So you got to kind of pay attention to the different options.
Yes, you do.
Pick one of the following: an elite front 4, average middle, elite back 4, or average front 4, elite middle, elite back, or elite front, elite middle, and average back 4. Vince, do you have yours?
I do. Yeah, 100%. For me, this is an easy one. I'm taking the option number 1. I want an elite front, okay, that is going to occupy the offensive line, which allows my average middle to scrape and make plays, okay? And then I want an elite back. That way I can do different things and I can trigger my linebackers who may not be good enough to just see it and go, but I can trigger them and I can do some different things with them and play some games and get them going if I have an elite back as well. So it's elite front, elite back, average middle for me. I think I could be real dangerous defensively if that was the case.
This is actually a lot tougher than what I thought it would be.
Ooh, okay.
I got to get rid of number 2 immediately. I think the number 1 thing that I want in is elite front, because the elite front is what's going to help everything else behind it.
Sure.
If you're getting pressure on the quarterback, that's less time your secondary has to cover. And like you said, if you have an elite front, that's, allows your linebackers to be, unmarked longer and scrape to plays unscathed, essentially. So the question becomes, would I rather have an elite linebacker core or an elite secondary? Okay. And this is really hard because when you already have an elite front, and you have an elite linebackers, you're basically shutting down the box. And I think that's a really critical area of the field. But then again, college football, And especially as you go up against better teams, it's a lot of passing the ball, and you have to have a good secondary to be able to shut things down. But again, if you have an elite up front and you're able to shut down the run game, I think that helps the pass game naturally. This is hard. I'm gonna go elite front, elite secondary, and average middle. I'm gonna go with you. Really close though, but I think if you can be elite on the front end and the back end, it just makes everything else in the middle that much easier.
Agreed.
So
completely agree. I apologize. We've had a super chat in here for about 20 minutes, and that's my bad from Tyler. We got to get it in. Thank you, Tyler, for the super chat. He says, give me your top 3 players realistically that your favorite team should draft in the 2024 NFL draft. Now, this is tough for people that are not, massive draft followers. I'll start this thing off for you, Jesse, because my team obviously is the Bears. They've got 2 top 10 picks.
Yeah, this is easier for you. You have you 100%. Actually have real estate where 100%. You could get some of the top play, like 2,
yes, absolutely. So realistically for me, I would love to get Marvin Harrison Jr. and Joe Alt. Those would be my top 2, and it's not close. That's who I would want them to draft in the top 10. I don't think Joe Alt is going to fall all the way to 9 for Notre Dame to be able to get Joe Alt, but a man can dream. Okay.
Who's your third one then? Like if you had to just,
I've got to figure out. See, I've got to figure out where the Bears' next pick is to know.
So that's where I was I didn't know if this question was actually thinking situationally or if you just had, I guess. Here, I'll kind of lean into how I thought about this one. I thought about the Cowboys' holes.
Okay.
And so the biggest holes to me is I think they need a good defensive tackle. They need a good linebacker. And then they need some sort of probably running back or, another offensive lineman. So at defensive tackle, I would take either of the guys from Texas, Tavondre Sweat or Byron Murphy. I think both of those guys would be excellent defensive tackles, someone to clog the run and take on a double team, something the Cowboys need. Linebackers, I take either of the guys from Alabama. Give me any Alabama linebacker, and I'll like my chances of what's gonna come out of that. I think it's Brashwell and Dallas Turner's the other one. And for fun, I would love for the Cowboys to have Audric Estime at running back. I think Tony Pollard isn't quite what they need. Like they need a more powerful back too, like how Zeke was, with Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard is kind of like a gadgety type running back, but they need a straight downhill runner, physical runner behind, some good offensive linemen, complement, Dak's passing game. So I'd like Audric to go to the Cowboys.
Fair enough.
As well.
My third one, like the Bears don't pick again until like the 43rd overall pick. And at that point, I think you get the best like edge rusher that's out there, to help solidify the defense. Like whatever the top edge rusher that's on the board, whatever it happens to be by the time you get down to 43, I think that's who I would want them to take. So Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, and then top edge guy or top defender, maybe, depending on how you want to look at your defense. Like they do have some holes to fill defensively for the Bears. So your best defender that's still on the board at 43, I think that's where you go personally. So I'm hoping for a good draft for the Bears. I just don't have a whole lot of faith. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you for the question, Tyler. Really appreciate it. Okay. How about this one from Benjamin?
Mailbag, what are you hoping to see from the offense this season?
That's a loaded one.
I was going to say, I'll try to avoid, maybe some of the cliche, or you could go on, I think, for different, areas of what you would want the offense to or what you're hoping to see out of the offense. I think the thing I will say that makes the most sense is obviously you want an offense that's going to score points, right? Like that's the easy answer.
Sure.
You want a more explosive, dynamic, two-dimensional, strong in the run, strong in the pass type offense. I think the number one thing I want to see out of the offense is Notre Dame dictating one, what it wants to do, and then two, even if you're not scoring points, I still would like to see Notre Dame have fluidity on the offense, even when they're not scoring points, like getting a couple first downs. Maybe that means holding the ball longer, controlling that clock, that sort of situation, giving the defense good field position. It just, again, being able to have successful drives outside of just scoring points. Our offense is just measured on scoring points, but I still think the field position battle, not having 3 and outs, and still looking fluid on offense, even when you're not scoring, is important.
Fair enough. All right, let's see here. What do we want to talk about next? There's a lot in here. Sorry, I didn't even answer the question. What am I hoping for from the season? I want to see. I do want to see. I mean, this is going to be obviously a quarterback-centric offense. From a run game standpoint, from a pass game standpoint, I want to see some wide receivers step up. That type of deal. You're not. It's going to be very difficult to recreate the scoring and some of the things that the offense did last year, even though they came up short in the big moments. Overall, they had a really, really good offense. And so I guess my biggest thing would be, I don't want the offense to disappear in the big moments. That's the biggest thing for me. Yeah. I'm happy that you can
stage
score.
fright.
Yeah. I'm happy you can score against the bottom half of your schedule and all of that, but I really don't want you to disappear when it comes to
big time drives against big time teams.
Yeah, absolutely. You show what you've got in the when it's important. You know what I mean? So, okay. How about this one? And I don't know if you're completely up on the roster, but I'm going to throw this one at you anyway.
Which transfer portal player are you looking forward to watching next year? I
can answer first if you want, if you don't have it.
No, I'm gonna avoid offense.
Okay.
I think Riley Leonard and Chris Mitchell are easy answers to say.
Yep. Agreed.
I'm gonna go with RJ Oben on defense because I think defensive end is a valuable position and a position on the defense that I'd like to see, a dynamic player at, someone who can get sacks, who can get pressure on the quarterbacks, QB hits, QB pressures, QB hurries, sacks, force fumbles, game-changing type of plays. I feel like elite defenses always have an elite edge rusher, and so I want to see what RJ Oben's about.
Okay, fair enough. For me, it's Mitchell. I mean, I think he could be elite as a wide receiver, and I'm really excited to see where what he does to this offense and what he's able to do with this offense. So
yeah, Leonard Denbrock combined with Mitchell is
100%
exciting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that's it for me for sure. Let's see here. How about, I know we got to get to rapid fire here soon because I know we got a hard out tonight because somebody's got to hit the road, which, hey man, that's called life. All right, here we go from ND Sailor.
By midseason, if a backup quarterback needs to come in and CJ is showing out in practice, do you put him in or one of the other two? I think this answer is easy for me, Vince. I've said this before. I don't care if you're a freshman, a sixth-year senior, a sophomore, whatever you are. I just want the guy who's the most talented, and that's why you have coaches, because their job is to be there every day and to assess who the best player is. And if the situation calls that they need to put in a backup quarterback, I don't care if it's Carr, I don't care if it's Menchie, I don't care if it's Angeli. I just want the guy that'll give them the best chance of winning the game. So again, I like what I've seen out of Angeli, in his limited appearances of the bowl game and some cleanup duty. Can't say I've seen much of Menchie. I can say I've heard good things about CJ Carr, and we know he's good. Young, talented quarterback. So whoever steps up to the situation and is the best, that's who I got to pick. I don't care who you are. I just want the best player in there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like once the depth chart is set going into game one, doesn't mean that that's the depth chart by mid-season. And so I like the fact that ND Sailor says by mid-season, because a lot of things can change between week 1 and week 6, or game 1 and game 6, I should say. And so if the quarterback goes down, if Riley goes down, you've got to put the next best guy in, whoever that happens to be. And that person should be showing out at practice, whoever it is. And so if it's CJ Carr, awesome. If it's Kenny Minchey, awesome. If it's Steve Angeli, awesome. I don't care who number 2 is in week 1. If somebody goes down, I care about who number 2 is at that moment. And if we're talking mid-season, you could see some fluctuation in the depth chart. And specifically with a guy like CJ, because he's a true freshman. And so he's going to be drinking out of a fire hose for a while, right? And things are probably going to slow down for him by mid-season. And so it's going to give him an opportunity to show off what he can do, at that moment. And so if it's CJ, awesome, like great. But I don't think it would be in year 1. I don't. I think Kenny Minchey's going to be number 2 going into the season, going into week 1. I think he's going to be number 2 in week 6. And so if something happens to Riley Leonard, then I think it's Kenny Minchey's show. So that's where I'm at with this whole thing. But if CJ is the best number 2 at practice at midseason, then CJ is the one that comes in if there's an issue, 100%. And I have no problem with that. So I am very much okay with a fluctuating depth chart as the season goes on. In fact, I want that because it means continued competition. All right, a couple more.
Okay, Vince, would you might have an idea for the spring game of what the coaches might be focusing on in the game? Simplify us.
There we go. So Irish Marine, I think we as fans look at the spring game completely differently than the coaches do, right? They try to do some fun stuff, like they try to draft, and you've got assistant coaches as head coaches, and you do a lot of fun things and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's a practice, right? I mean, it's a practice, and you've seen a lot of what these guys can do in the 14 practices prior to the spring game. Now, the only thing that I would personally be looking for in the spring game is who is a gamer. Like now you're out in the stadium, you got the game helmets on, you got the game jerseys on. Who's a gamer? That would be something that I would be looking at. But other than that, you're going to throw the film in. You're going to treat it very similarly as you do practice, spring practice. Now, you've participated in spring ball before as a player. Am I on the right track, or do they treat the spring game a little bit differently?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing that the spring game is one, a test of your knowledge for a lot of the younger players, because spring is a good time for the install of the offense and the defense for a lot of, the basics for a lot of the younger players. And so the spring game is partially kind of what I would say a final exam to get an understanding of where the depth chart is at that point in time. But really, it's just a big competition period, right? The coaches just want to see how you're competing in live time and open space, against each other.
Sure.
And so that's, again, I think those are the main things that come out of the spring game is understanding where everyone is on the depth chart. And then again, it just being a big kind of open competition and seeing how different guys perform, in some kind of higher stake moments, I guess.
Okay. All right. There you go. We got one last question, and I guess it's for me.
Vince, how is recruiting for your son going?
Well, as well as it could be at the moment. Obviously, he's a junior. He's in the 25 class. Unless you are the absolute elite of the elite, it's slow going for kickers at this time of year. And so he is communicating with a bunch of coaches, a lot of MAC level coaches. There's another D1, team that kind of reached out a little bit. Don't think that one's a possibility because it involves a military commitment. But we'll see how that goes. But things are going well. We're lining up all the camps in June and all that fun stuff. And so it's going to be a fun June, kind of going from camp to camp. And because these guys, that's the biggest thing with kickers is these coaches want to get their eyes on them. You can look at stats and you can do all these different things. And obviously his rankings are going very well. He's the number 36 punter in the nation for his class. And he is the number 2 punter in Indiana. And he's the number 5 kicker in Indiana right now. So for his class, so things are going well. It's just a matter of now he's got to get in front of these coaches. And so we're going to be traversing the Midwest in June. Should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it. It kind of be our last hurrah, I think, as father and son before he goes off and does his own thing, So should be a lot of fun. And he's sitting here listening to me talk about him, which is awkward. But, it is what it is. So anyway, all right, Jesse, are you ready for some rapid fire, my friend?
Let's fire this thing up.
My man. Just got to write down the time for our boy Sean. All right, let's do this thing. We got a bunch of questions in the queue here for rapid fire. First off, Netflix is going to produce a Hard Knocks style show centered around Major League Baseball this season. They are reportedly going to follow the 2024 Boston Red Sox. So we're going to do a 3-parter. Buy or sell the idea of the Hard Knocks style show. And then a scale of 1 to 10, the chances you're going to watch. And then finally, the fact that they picked the Red Sox is blank.
Yeah, so I buy the idea, first of all. I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. I love Hard Knocks football, so why would I not enjoy Hard Knocks baseball, seeing behind the scenes, getting to see kind of, the spring training, the inner workings to an MLB team. I think I'd be fascinated to see the travel aspect of it because baseball guys are constantly on the move, you know what I mean? And the amount of games that they play, seeing how that's all taken care of. I think that's going to be great. Scale of 1 to 10 chances I'm going to watch. I think this closely follows kind of what I was just saying. It's a 10 out of 10. I'm definitely going to tune in and watch. And then last but not least, the fact that they picked the Red Sox is blank. I think that the fact they picked the Red Sox is great because the Red Sox is historically one of the most prominent teams. They've been around for a long time. Them, the Cubs, the Red Sox, the Yankees, teams that have been around for a while. I think you're not going to have a hard time because whether or not those teams are good or bad, they have a long-standing fan base, right? And Boston is so polarizing, especially in the sports world. I think people are going to watch that, just because it's the Red Sox. And I don't have anything against the Red Sox, and I'm just being a fan of baseball. I love the idea. And say, like if this were the Oakland A's, I would definitely be more turned off, or, maybe a team like the White Sox, or, just teams that haven't been around as long or have as much historical kind of value, I'd be less interested in. But, I don't mind the Red Sox, and I definitely would like to see kind of, how the inner workings of the day-to-day functions for a baseball team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a buy for me. I love baseball, and I love the behind the scenes of baseball, and I don't really care what team it is. I would watch it, right? And it's on Netflix, so I can actually watch it. I never get to watch Hard Knocks because I don't get HBO. So I like behind the scenes stuff. Like I believe Prime Video was doing they were doing some series where they would follow a football team all year long. I can't remember what they called it, but I really enjoyed it. And so I would absolutely watch this. And so it's like an 8 or a 9 for me. Like, I don't know if I'll tune in weekly on Netflix, like to watch it, or however often they're going to put it out throughout the season, but I'll definitely watch, especially like spring training and watching guys get cut or watching guys get brought up. Like I dig that kind of stuff. So it's definitely a buy for me. I would watch it no matter what team it was, to be honest. And as far as the fact that it's the Red Sox, totally predictable, because what games are on nationally televised the most? It's Yankees Red Sox, right? I mean, almost every one of those games is either Sunday Night Baseball, whatever. We see Yankees Red Sox all the time, because they draw eyeballs to the TV. So if you're trying to kick off a new venture like this, where you're following a team around, of course you're going to start with one of the teams that gets the most eyeballs. It's not surprising to me in any way. Of course, I wish it was the Cubs. I would like that so much more. But with Theo Epstein going back to the Red Sox, with, they're trying to build this thing back up. I'm sure that they're going to frame it as like they're the underdog in the East, all of these different things. They're going to be chasing of all
They're
teams.
rebuilding, and they're
The
going back
Orioles.
to Theo, the guy who rebuilt them.
Right. So I think there's actually a lot of drama there. I think there's a lot of intrigue there. So
I think there's a lot of questions surrounding a franchise that's been predominantly good for a while now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a good choice, to be honest with you. I will watch, and I'm actually looking forward to it. So I hope that they start coming out with episodes relatively early in spring training, so I can start scratching, the baseball itch a little bit earlier than normal. So should be a lot of fun.
My itch started yesterday, Vince.
Really? Yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, I know why. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. All right, next up, ESPN has announced that Nick Saban is going to join the College Game Day crew as an analyst. They're not getting rid of anyone, so now it's a 6-man desk. This is blank.
This is chaotic, Vince. I think that they needed, if you're going to add a big personality like Nick Saban and everything that he is and everything that he's accomplished in college football the last, 2 decades, 3 decades, it was time to kind of retire someone off. I thought it would be Lee Corso. I just think with 6 people, it can get, with 5 people at times last year, it felt a little hectic. So, maybe that role is limited to start, and then it grows and grows as others might kind of be dying off. But I just think I like the idea, but again, I just think it's kind of chaotic. I got to see how things kind of shake out a little bit.
It's too much. It's too much. We talked about, was it the 3 of us that talked about how there was, so many guys on these NFL, panels going into the game, and how you can't even really get any kind of in-depth analysis because there's not enough time for these guys to talk because there's so many of them. It's too much. It's too many. 6 is too many. They need it. If they're going to bring, I get why they brought on Nick Saban. He's the GOAT. He's the best of all time. I get it.
Like I will be interested because I like whose opinion can you value more than freaking Nick Saban, right?
100%. But I think they need to pare it down a little bit. 6
so
is
who would
way
you,
too many.
If you had to, how about this?
This is an easy one, by the way.
You know how they always do the start, bench, and cut type? This is kind of like that scenario. Who are you benching out of the 6? You got Kirk Herbstreit,
right?
Reese Davis, Desmond, Pat McAfee, Lee Corso, and now Nick Saban. If you had to get rid of 2, who are your 2?
I mean, come on. That could not be easier. So
am I teeing you up too easy right now?
You really are. So Lee Corso, it's time to put him
I'll agree on that one.
Okay. Time to put him out to pasture. And then it's Desmond Howard, man.
Yeah, it's Desmond.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Desmond needs to go just because, and I know it's a lot of people who might listen back to this and be like, oh, it's just the Notre Dame people hating on Michigan.
Partly,
it's more than that. It's just
but it is more than that.
Yeah. Desmond just doesn't provide critical thinking analysis. It feels so homerish all the time, and so it's never any actual thought. It's kind of the same old, and it all goes back to Michigan. So I agree with your answer. It'd be Desmond and Corso for me.
He just never has an original thought, and it's all centered around Michigan, and it's an old shtick. And to be honest with you, so is Corso. It's an old shtick, and all they really do with Corso anyway is roll him out for the picks.
Yeah.
Like we're good. We're good. Put the head on McAfee at this point, and I think we're all good there because I think it is a net win if you get rid of Corso and Desmond and you bring in Nick Saban. Like that's a net positive.
Would be great.
That's a net positive, guys. I'm sorry, it just is. And so that is absolutely what I would do. I will say the Pat McAfee thing, it's a lot to take in all at first, right? It's a lot to take in. But as you watch him, and I don't know, it's probably a bit of a shtick, and I get it because that's who Pat McAfee is. He's a pretty genuinely outgoing, kind of in your face guy, right? And he absolutely embraces every campus that he goes on. And I think that's cool. Like he's like, got the cheers memorized and he's like doing all this stuff. Like I think he actually genuinely embraces the campus atmosphere, because he's like 36 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think he remembers college a little better than some of these other guys do. But he grew on me. Pat McAfee grew on me. I'm not gonna lie. So it's an easy pick if I have to get rid of two guys. There's no doubt about that. So, all right, let's move on. ESPN, Fox Sports, and TNT are all grouping up and developing a streaming service together. How surprised are you?
I guess I'm not surprised at all because when all this streaming stuff came out, I thought, why are we making everything so compartmentalized?
You sure?
Right? And then I was like, I feel like we're just going to go in full circle of undoing something just to create something new, just to go back to the old thing. And I think that's now what you're seeing is like, and now instead of 50 different entities being by themselves, you're getting groups of 5, groups of 6, groups of 3. And it's just like, what was so wrong with cable and having everything all together? Because it's like, that's what it seems to be trending back towards now. And so I think the overall idea is cool. Like those are the most watched sports networks that I watch. And so if we can have all of the sports in one spot and we can all agree that that's where all the sports or, all the sports are going to be, yeah, that's great because I hate having to need Peacock for this or, Amazon Prime for that or TNT for, I just want it all back in one spot, just like the good old days.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm not even like, there are times where I go to one of those individual apps or whatever, but I generally go to like the, Fubo or whatever. And it generally has what I need, like what I'm looking for. Cause it's like one-stop shopping. Right.
Right.
And I kind of do want that back, like going to all like, and before I had Fubo, it was the, okay, you got to go to the ESPN app. You got to go to the Fox Sports app. You got to go here. You got to go there. Like it was annoying, to be honest with you. And so if they all figure it out and they all get together on the same thing, I mean, I guess that's probably better, to be honest, because it's just easier to find stuff. And I'm all about ease of finding stuff. So it's going to be interesting, though, to see who kind of signs on to something like that and who doesn't and what it looks like in the future. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, okay. It's blank that Pro Football Focus has graded out Christian Gray as the second best freshman corner in the country in the 23 season.
It's reassuring, Vince, because what did we talk about earlier when the mailbag questions was, who did we want kind of defensively to step up? Like what position would we want someone to step up? And, we talked about how the corner position opposite of Benjamin Morrison needed to step up. And when you have Jaden Mickey and you have Christian Gray, and Christian Gray was just graded, the second best freshman safety, it's a nice reassuring feeling to know that a defense that already had a lot of good parts and is good overall is just reloading essentially, right? They are restocking and reloading with a lot of good talent that is headed its way. And I think, outside of Gray, there's a lot of other, players that we should be excited about, Drake Bowen,
Sure.
the linebacker that, what is it? KVA, that, there's Jalen Sneed still potentially, there's just a lot of talent on that defense. And I think overall it's really reassuring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's, reassuring is a good word. I can't really come up with something different. I mean, like I said, I think he should be the starting corner. That's my opinion. But I think Jaden Mickey should be starting at nickel. So I think it's not like I don't want Jaden Mickey on the field.
We want all of them on the field.
I want all of them on the field at the same time. Like
Agreed.
I think that could be a dynamic trio of corners on the field at the same time with Christian Gray, Jaden Mickey, and Benjamin Morrison. Like, let's go. That I think that could be just a lockdown corner type defense, and that's what I want. And so it is reassuring to see him as the second highest graded corner in America in 23 for true freshmen. So I'm excited, man. And I've been excited about the corner position for about the last 3 years, basically. And Mike Mickens knows how to coach him, see Cam Hart, and he knows how to recruit him, see everybody else. And so it's fun to watch, man. And he is a coach that I hope Notre Dame continues to do a good job at keeping him around. That's going to be the biggest thing moving forward. That's for sure.
I think that's how we feel about everyone on the defensive staff right now.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I guess the most quote unquote expendable would be O'Leary. That seems to be what people think. But at the same time, look what he's done at the safety position. I mean, he took Xavier Watts and turned him into the best defensive player in America, right?
Right.
The first safety, a unanimous All-American. That's saying something, folks. So, and what he's done coaching up a position that arguably had the least amount of talent, I think, of all the defensive positions. And part of that's his fault. He needs to recruit better. Like, I get that. But I think he's a dang good coach. Dang good coach. Okay. Here's a fun one. NBA Celebrity All-Star rosters were recently announced. Who would be your number one overall pick for a Celebrity All-Star basketball game?
See, this one is tough, Vince, because first of all, question is fun. It's like, regardless of if it's an NBA, if it's a NFL, if it's a MLB, I'm just picking someone that is just an overall athletic celebrity, right?
Okay.
Like someone that, and then at the same time too, I got to go with someone that like I'm a fan of too, like someone that maybe that's a musical artist, maybe that's an actor, maybe that's just someone all time that I like, and also too, I think you have to like consider someone who's competitive, right? Like someone who's going to be out there doing everything that it takes to win. I don't know. I had a hard time doing this one. Yeah. Do you have anyone in mind?
Well, unfortunately, Chief Brody took my answer. I was going to say Adam Sandler because he's a pretty good ball player. And if I'm picking the Celebrity All-Star game, that means I'm the coach.
Right.
So he would definitely keep things a lot of fun for me. So I would really enjoy having Adam Sandler on my team. So, and then I would also, what is his name? The short comedian.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. I want Kevin Hart on my team too. Because he's got some handles. So I think the Hart to Sandler combination could be pretty good.
I like Adam Sandler too. Because one, he's good, like the comedic relief. He's going to be into it. He's a big sports nerd. He's going to be competitive. I liked Egg, Bacon, and Biscuit. I thought about Jamie Foxx. That was a good one. I've considered Michael Phelps just because of the competitiveness. He still has he still has athletic ability, right? Like you're not just a world Olympic swimmer.
DK says he picked Shakira to be on his team. Shakira would be my assistant coach.
What's crazy is like I had a good I thought I had a good answer, and then just like the more I think about it, the more I'm like I don't know who I'd go with. I think I would go with like. And again, this might seem like an easy answer, but Micah Parsons would be up there for me. Well, he's not. He's a celebrity, already an actual like athlete, right?
Yeah,
but
I mean, they do crossover, I guess sometimes, but yeah, let's stay away from like other professional athletes.
You know what? I'm just gonna go with Will Ferrell.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Somebody said Vince Vaughn. I like that. He could be post. He'd be a post for you. He's obviously he does a good job playing quarterback at Notre Dame. He's done some backyard quarterbacking in Wedding Crashers. So, I like the ball in his hands. I almost want to go with like an all comedian team. I think I could do some damage with that group.
Ooh, you know who else I thought? Matthew McConaughey would be another good one.
Yeah, all right.
Snoop Dogg would be, I think, another good one. I don't know how he's, I think he'd be liable for injury, but the guy loves sports. And again, he'd be having a good time. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think we could pick a good team that would, or even two teams, like it was you versus me or whatever. Like
Mark Wahlberg would be up there.
Oh, he's an athlete. Yeah.
He's into being fit. He's competitive. He's done, I think, you know what? The only thing that like deters me from Wahlberg is he's a bit of a turd head every now and then. And so I like him, but I just don't know what version of Mark Wahlberg I'm going to get, right? Like, is he going to be, cranky all day, or is it going to be fun Mark Wahlberg? So
it's fair.
I'm going to go Mark Wahlberg. I think Mark Wahlberg or Adam Sandler would be my top two picks.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good one. I like it. It's a good question. That was a fun one. Okay. The Major League Baseball over-unders for the season for their wins came out today. The Cubs are sitting at 83.5. Are you taking the over? Are you taking the under?
This is my favorite bet last season.
You took the over last year and blew it away.
I did, and I felt it was a great feeling because I convinced myself. I tried to convince other people, and then I was just preaching the entire season, and it eventually, came true. And the way I look at it this season would be 83.5 wins is only one win better than last year. So if they can get Bellinger re-signed, it's basically the same team as last year.
Yeah.
Plus a little bit better pitching.
Yeah.
And you're going to add Craig Counsell. And I think the Cubs blew not a lot of, but down the stretch, I think Ross, a lot of games, I keep saying a lot. More games could have been won with better manager calling shots in the game. I didn't agree with some of the bullpen decisions.
I remember.
Lineup decisions on taking guys out when they're hot, etc. I think Craig Counsell can add maybe 5 wins himself. So I like the over just because, again, I think offensively you're looking at predominantly the same team. They're going to get better at pitching. They're going to get better at the head coach position. So give me the over. I think it's lunatic behavior to say that the Cardinals are favored to win the division because we saw what happened last year when they were favored to win the division.
I think you hammer this over, to be perfectly honest with you. I will be taking the over on this. I will be taking the over. I'm not going to spend a ton of money on it or anything, but I'm taking the over. And I think it's an easy bet. And of course, as soon as I bet it, it's not going to win. And the Cubs will have a terrible season. But I agree with everything that you said. Now, because I think Milwaukee comes back to reality a little bit because they just lost their manager. And I think they won a lot of games because of their manager.
I think they overperformed the last couple seasons.
And where's that manager now? North side of Chicago, baby. And so I think some of those wins from Milwaukee are going to make their way down the road into Illinois to the north side. And I think they're going to be the Cubs. And so I would hammer this over. I really would. I'm actually surprised it's not a little bit higher. It's
only one game really surprised me. I think 85 would have been a more realistic number.
Yeah.
On the verge of, are you an 85? I think they're an 85 to 95 win team. I don't think they're 100.
I think that's a good window.
I think, but they're right in 85 to 95.
Yes, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. So yeah, that's where I am as well. All right, last one because we're up against a hard clock.
We're right on time, baby.
Buy or sell the Los Angeles Dodgers as the World Series favorite.
I got to take the buy because you have Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Shohei Ohtani all on the same team, Vince. And then you added depth at the starting pitcher position. The only questions I have is once they get to the playoffs, because they'll dominate the regular season, will they do it in the playoffs? Can they live up to I feel like the Dodgers are almost getting to this point of kind of being like the Cowboys, dominating the regular season, having expectations in the playoffs, and essentially just kind of folding. And so will Ohtani be the difference maker? I think so. And I think they have every right to be the World Series favorite right now. I think the better question, Vince, would be who would be your dark horse? Like a team potentially that, no one's talking about, might have a ton of talent, And I'm gonna convince myself of this. I really like the Cubs, to be honest with you, because
Yes.
I think they were just a little bit away last season. They're getting like we just talked about, they're getting a really good manager, and just they play so solid defensively up the middle, having probably the best shortstop and second baseman duo. When they're healthy, just a matter of can they have a corner piece. I think the Padres also might be another dark horse team, and then lastly, I think the Orioles. Can the Orioles kind of finish what they started last year? Because I think the Yankees are getting a lot of hype just because they're the Yankees and they have money and they can make offseason moves that look big and grand. But I think my top three dark horses in no particular order are the Cubs, Padres, and Orioles.
Love it. I love it. I think, from a betting standpoint, I think it absolutely makes sense that they are the favorites because they should be. I also agree with most of the people in the chat that they're not going to probably win the whole thing. They'll find a way to screw it up. I do think that that's probably the case as well. But everything else you said, I agree with, and I'm hoping for a fun season watching the Northsiders. So I guess we'll see what's happening. And Sloppy Joe does make a good point that Ohtani's probably not pitching this year either because of the injury.
He's still going to add probably 40 bombs minimum.
I get it. I'm just saying he's not going to be the double threat, that he's been in the past. So, all right, dude. Like I said, we're on a hard out. Jesse Stiers has to make his way up to the Father David Penny, the land of Father David Penny. And
to Toronto I go. If anyone has any quick food suggestions, let me know because I am all for trying new food.
There we go. All right. Father David Penny's trumpeting the Blue Jays. So there you go. He's going with the home country on that one. So all right. He says nothing chain and you'll be fine as far as
I'll
food.
take it.
So there you go. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, and share with your family and friends. Leave us a 5-star review, all that fun stuff. And we're all going to wish Jesse good luck as he travels up across the border to Canada. Don't get in any trouble up there. We want to make sure you can come back to us. It's going to be important. Tomorrow there will be a show at 6:00, so make sure you tune in. We got some surprises for you at 6:00 tomorrow. So again, make sure you tune in tomorrow at 6. I'm not going to give anything away, but make sure you tune in. It should be a lot of fun. So, and then of course we've got Friday Fire, 5:00. And it's going to be all Super Bowl prop bets. Yeah, baby. So let's go. Until then, for Jesse, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.